Jalen Smith is a mainstay of our defense. He is a central figure in what we do. He's all over the field for us defensively, and we'll make sure that we move him around to put him in a position for him to impact what we do defensively. He's no longer somebody that it just ties down one position. He can play multiple positions on our defense, and we think he's one of the best football players in the country. Drue Tranquill is extremely versatile. He'll have a role that allows him to play multiple positions for us. He certainly has the intelligence to play a number of positions. I think we're going to be able to see him play a role that allows him close to the ball, but he can play off the hash. He's got the size and strength to play linebacker, but he's got the physical ability to play safety. So you can imagine when you have a guy like that we'll find a role for him. And I think a lot of that will be in down and distance and different packages.
We've heard a lot of talk about Drue Tranquill's rehab as he attacked his rehab. How would you say that's going to help him going forward, having to overcome his adversity so early in his college career?
Well, I think anybody that has such a positive way of looking at an injury in the way he did, and I think anybody that has a setback that handles it in such a positive way, what their mental capacity is to overcome small things that are in front of them, like the engineering major that he's in. I mean, that's an extremely difficult major to balance, and he's able to do it. This summer he was a 4.0 student, so you know that he's able to handle the rigors of the day-to-day academics here at Notre Dame, as well as all the things that we're going to throw at him from a football standpoint, because he's already handled a major injury in the way he's come back.
Brian, I want to ask you about one of your one of your assistant coaches and one of your players. I'll start with Coach Denson. How did he find your radar?
Well, certainly we're well aware, and I am, well aware of Notre Dame graduates that are in the coaching ranks. I think it's important that that certainly somebody like Autry, who's your all-time leading rusher, is a coach. So I think that's the first thing that I knew of him a few years back. I got a chance to meet him when I was down in Miami, when he was at, I believe, Bethune-Cookman at the time. I got a chance to meet him, and I was very impressed with him way back then. And then just kept track of him. And then Chuck Martin, who was here with me, hired him at Miami of Ohio. And so I got firsthand information on what his, work ethic was like, how he handled his room. And when you have that kind of firsthand information, it makes it easier. And certainly, obviously, being a Notre Dame grad and somebody that had such a great career, that allows you to get that inside information.
Could you kind of expand a little bit and talk about why it's so important to you, to have the Notre Dame ties and to kind of track that and keep an eye on that?
Well, we think you're, obviously much more accustomed to the lifestyle here at Notre Dame. It's one where you have to know the day-to-day lifestyle relative to living on campus, living in the dorms. The academic piece is very, very important. The year-round commitment to academics and athletics, Autry was very familiar with. And also, he left the state of Florida to come to Notre Dame for a reason. So, he can tell a great story about that in the recruiting process as well. So all those things come together, make it easy for us to keep an eye on a young man like that.
In terms of Ronnie Stanley, could you revisit when you and Coach Highstand went out there to kind of re-recruit him to come back? Could you kind of revisit some of the talking points that maybe you touched on?
Yeah, I think primarily it was you're this close. You haven't had a winter workout yet. You've had 2 injuries that have really not allowed you to get as strong as you can be physically. you're close to finishing off your degree. Let's get your degree. And then finally, let's put you in a leadership position. I think all those three things, we're certainly in front of him, and we simply went there to point those things out to him and reinforce that we would provide those opportunities for him.
And where is he in terms of compared to this year compared to other years in his career at this point, and what makes him so good?
Well, physically, he's athletically off the charts for his size. Long, athletic, the ability to move his feet, now bring the strength element into it. He's so much stronger. And then has a great understanding of the game of football. All those things come naturally to him. Now, the leadership component, I love where he is from that end. I think he's grown so much maturity-wise. I think the players have a great amount of respect for him, and when he talks, people listen. And then, I think just overall, just another year with Coach Hiestand on the offensive line has just developed his craft even more.
Coach, I know you're blessed with a lot of talent and depth at the wide receiver position, but two players that maybe haven't been talked about as much this summer, Corey Robinson and Torrey Hunter Jr., where do you see those guys kind of fitting in the mix?
Well, I think Torrey Hunter is, you're going to see a lot of him this year, and he'll play a lot. He's very versatile. He could play, if we had to, he could play all the positions. He could play X, Z, and W. He's probably our most versatile receiver in that he has the size and the speed and the ability to work inside out at the slot position because of his elusiveness. We probably don't have another player that has that ability on the roster. So a unique talent in that from that standpoint. So you'll hear a lot about him this year. He'll get a lot of playing time. He's had a very good camp, and I think consistency. He's been as good as anybody that we've had in preseason camp. Corey Robinson just continues to learn more about the game every day. We had a red zone period yesterday where. We're really trying to get him. Look, he's not going to get a lot of one-on-one coverage. He's going to get a lot of bracket coverage, a lot of 7, 8 across, zone coverage, and he's going to have to work the back end line. That's where he's going to have to live this year. And he's getting accustomed to understanding zone coverages. And so he's still developing his craft and learning more about the game every day. And so what I like about Corey is that he's not gone under the radar as much as he's still out there learning more about the game every single day because he's going to be defended differently this year. I think he kind of jumped onto the radar last year, and I don't think anybody's going to play him man-to-man. They'd be crazy if they did. So we're preparing for a lot more zone and double zone, and I think he's going through the process of learning how to defeat those double zones, and he's making some good progress, but he's learning along the way.
Being the most tenured coach here since Lou Holtz, and I think 5th or 6th longest regime all time. Do you feel more comfortable, settled? Is this year feeling different than some of the earlier years here?
I don't know if you ever get comfortable in this seat at Notre Dame. Comfortable wouldn't be a word that I would use. I think what I would probably say is that the picture is a lot clearer in the sense that I really know, where our strengths and weaknesses are as a program, what we need to continue to work on and develop, and know the direction that we need to continue to, push the group in. And so I think it's just a more clearer understanding of the program and what we need every single day, more than a comfort level. Like I said, I don't think you ever feel comfortable here at Notre Dame. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just think you always got to be, looking at how to get better every day.
Brian, Having gone through the whole spring and now about half of camp with Mike Sanford as a quarterback coach, how has perception kind of matched up with reality, with what you thought you were getting and what he's brought to the table so far?
Every day is an affirmation of what I had hoped going into it. You know, we, I'll give you an example. We had a trick play that I had been running for a number of years, and so I didn't have a clip on it. And it was a Cincinnati clip, and we didn't keep up on the server our first year Cincinnati clips, because we dumped them off the server. Because we only kept the last 2 years, not the last 3 years of Cincinnati, and I hadn't run it for a couple of years. So I didn't have the clip of this trick play that I wanted to run, that I had run my first year at Cincinnati. Well, sure as heck, Coach Sanford ran it at Boise State, and it was virtually the same play. And so it's that kind of connection of philosophy and thinking of, in this formation, if they do this, I want to be able to do that. And he had already had that trick play and that answer to the formation. So it was just another, like I said, affirmation that we're on the same page every single day.
You've run it as a player or as a coach there?
He ran it last year in the bowl game.
Him being a bit of a younger guy, how's his chemistry work with the quarterbacks in the room, just relating to them on a level probably some other guys can't? What's that relationship like on and off the field?
I think it's real strong. I sit in there every day. I think he's got a great relationship with all of the quarterbacks. But I think that Coach Gilmore, who's one of our senior coaches on the staff, has a great relationship with the younger players too. So, young or old, I just think that each coach has a different way of reaching players. And, Mike does a great job. He's a great communicator. And I think if you're clear in your communication and you can reach, players regardless of what the age is. And he does a very good job of communicating.
Coach, up here. What's been the biggest area of growth for the quarterbacks and the offense since Mike Sanford arrived?
I would say that there's no gray area. It's real clear as to what's expected, and we're a movement key progression read offense, and at times last year we were not clear, sometimes on our movement key and our progression reads. We are 100% on our movement key progressions, and Mike is a stickler for that, and I've always been a stickler for that, and that's one of the things that we have connected on, and was one of the things that we connected on in the interviewing process. I just think that that's central to having a great communication base with your quarterbacks. If they don't see it through the same lens that you do, there's miscommunication, and that's been cleared up, where it's easy communication now with the quarterbacks as to, how did you get across the board on your reads, if you didn't start with the right movement key, and Mike's done a great job there.
Brian, you mentioned that the picture's clear and you have a better understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of the program. What would you say are the strengths and weaknesses?
Well, I think the strengths are we've developed depth within the program, and I think that's probably, something that has taken time, and one that we've really committed ourselves to in terms of not straying from what we believe are the right fits here at Notre Dame. Those that recognize the value of a degree here at Notre Dame and are committed, to what a Notre Dame education's about, and playing for championships. So, that's taken some time. That's the the foundation of our strength. Our weaknesses, I think we have to continue to look at ways of, as we continue to move the bar academically here. We got to continue to support our student athletes and continue to look for ways to, make sure that our kids are, solidly supported academically. And I think we're making great progress there. Those would be a couple that come to mind right away.
Coach, right up the middle. Where do you stand on naming captains?
Where do I stand? Like,
Are you ready to announce them? Have you picked
oh
them?
no, we've gotten the captain. We've gotten a list of guys that I have felt were worthy of that opportunity cleared by our faculty athletic board. I think we had 10 of them cleared yesterday, and then we'll present those names to our team probably on Monday, and then we'll probably be ready to name some captains.
Do you feel with the depth, I guess, at leadership, can you just talk about, is this as deep as you've been in terms of leadership in your time here at Notre Dame?
It is. Yeah, it is. There's, we have 10 names that were certified that all could be captains here. So obviously we're not going to have 10. The hesitancy is that, when you name a few, the other guys, not necessarily feel slighted, but, I don't want them to take a back seat either. But we have a strong unity council as well. So I'm not in a hurry to name them, let's put it that way, because the group's running pretty good on their own right now. So for me, not naming them is not one of indecision or that we don't have any. We have too many, more than anything else.
Brian, over here. You mentioned depth before about how things have changed a little bit. Where is the athleticism? You guys played for the national title a couple of years ago. Where's the athleticism of this team now? We hear a lot about Jalen and Ronnie and Kavari compared to maybe the group that almost won a national title.
Well, it's a faster team. It's a more athletic team. We're deeper at virtually all positions across the board, both on the offensive line and the defensive line. Maybe we don't have singularly one superstar here or there, but the depth of the group is a whole different football team than that group. That was a unique group in that they knew how to win, had great leadership, had, look, winning teams have a special, group of guys that find ways to win, and that group did. But this is from an athletic standpoint and from a physical prowess standpoint, a deeper football team.
Brian, straight ahead here. With the injury to Jones, you mentioned the other day how important it was to have Jerry Tillery here early for his development. Where have you seen the most improvement in Jerry since he got here?
I think for Jerry, he's learning every day our defense. And, we're a 3-down, 4-down team. We like to bring pressures. There's a lot there that, he's learning every single day. So I think Jerry's just learning how to play defense full-time. Remember, he was a part-time defensive player. He was a pretty good offensive lineman. So I don't know that there's any one specific thing that he's learning, other than he's just learning how to be a defensive player in college football. And so all of that coming to him on a day-to-day basis. He went through a spell there where he's jumping offside all the time on hard cadences, So, little things like that. Just, the discipline of lining up correctly all the time. He's got a great motor, plays hard. He's a great teammate. He's got a lot of really, really great traits. I think it's just a matter of being more comfortable in learning the defense as a true freshman.
How important is Sheldon then in helping him line up properly and kind of taking him under his wing a little bit?
Well, Sheldon's been great. There's no mistake about it. That's Sheldon's room, and I'm really proud of Sheldon, and he's come a long way in his leadership. Last year, he was at times he was a hesitant leader, you know, in a sense that he knew he had a captain role. He wasn't sure how to fill it at times. This year, there's no mistake about how he's leading. That's his room. He holds everybody accountable in that room. He's really doing a nice job, and he's helped out quite a bit. That was his group in the summer, and it continues to be his group in preseason. Coach Gilmore's done a great job mentoring him as well. But I think by and large, it's been, you know, Jerry has taken a lot of that on his own. He's very cognizant of the fact that he's in a pretty important role where he's going to have to play a lot, and he takes a lot of that on himself.
And finally, it's nice to see the Lindsey Nelson collection has been resurrected. Is there a story behind this, sport coach?
Well, I thought that, you know, I went blue last year. I thought I'd go green this year. Blue worked out pretty good. Hopefully green will have the same kind of effect. So we're just going to try to keep everybody guessing. Next year we'll try something different, maybe gold.
Hey, Brian, 7 of your guys over here. 7 of you guys obviously went to South Africa. What do you hope they gain from a trip like that? And are you worried of anything sending players so far away?
Well, what they're able to gain is certainly the ability to study abroad and see a different culture and lifestyle. Very few student athletes get this opportunity. Matter of fact, I don't know that many do. We wanted to be able to say that our student athletes at Notre Dame get a chance to study abroad, not like many others do. And all of those that went earned that opportunity. And so I think more than anything else is to give them a different perspective, you know, in studying abroad. And, you know, we get caught in a bit of a routine here, you know, one that we create as coaches. And it's refreshing that we can send them abroad and give them a chance to see other things in life and academically as well. Was I concerned? Absolutely. You know, anytime you put your best player, defensive player, in another country, you worry about everything. And so having said that, we sent a trainer and we made sure there was a weight room. I'm sure they never saw the weight room. They tell me they did, but most of those guys came back and we're in pretty good shape. But we think it's a great opportunity. We think it speaks to the kind of education that they can get at Notre Dame that's unique.
Brian, over here. Going into this, you had some middle linebackers that were coming back, and Joe and Jarrett, and of course Niles as well. How's that coming right now? Do you have an idea how that's going to work out this fall?
They're all going to play at some time. You know, Joe Schmidt will be the starter there. Jarrett Grace will play, and Niles will obviously get a chance to get in there as well. I mean, look, they're all guys that have played for us. All have contributed. All have played meaningful minutes for us. We're going to need them all. We play such a rugged schedule, and we want to limit the snaps early in the year, especially on a group. We play so many more snaps than most teams, especially early in the year with our schedule. And, you know, where most teams get a chance to pull their guys in the second quarter and third quarter, we're grinding through 4 quarters, and we really need to pace our group. And we think we're really deep there. We think it's an advantage. And because of that, they'll all get a chance to play and play meaningful minutes for us.
On Niles specifically, you know, he obviously played probably before he was ready last year out of need.
Sure.
How's he coming along, you know, so far now?
Well, we think he's developing, but, you know, look, he's like anybody else would be. He looks at the depth chart, and he's running out there with the second group, you know, and splitting reps, whereas last year he was the starter, you know. So, you know, he wants more reps, just like I'd want more reps. But as we tell him, his reps have to be quality because he's got to be ready when he gets called upon, just like he was last year. You got called upon, and you've got to be ready. So how's he taking it? He wants more reps. But how does he have to respond? that when he gets out there, he's got to be flawless in his execution because he's going to have to play for us at some time, and he's going to have to play well.
Ryan, over here. When you were looking at your defense in the offseason, where did you start with how we improve from this standpoint that you had so many pieces missing at the end, you had so much inexperience on the field? You know, what did you take from last year that it's kind of help that defense evolve?
Well, we started with the first couple of games, and you know, we looked at the first few games and where we were, and carried that through until we started to lose some key players. So let's start before we had a rash of injuries, because I think it speaks for itself when you lose, you know, Schmidt and Jones and a number of defensive linemen were out. We felt like if we could solidify the back end of our defense to start. So beginning with the back first, you know, getting Kavari Russell back. By the way, Kavari was fully cleared by the NCAA and reinstated, so he is back with us. Like how I dropped that one in there. Pretty cool, huh? So starting from the back forward, you know, getting Kavari back, and really feeling like if we could solidify the safety position with Max and you know, Elijah, that we were playing a lot of young guys up front, and they were getting some valuable experience. Add Joe Schmidt back into the mix, we felt really good about where we could be defensively if we could solidify the back end first. Spent a lot of time in the offseason with Max and Elijah, and it's paying off. Those guys are communicating well. Our defense is getting lined up. We had to do some things which we kind of talked about, I think, a couple times in the spring, and I think Brian's done a masterful job of really cleaning up a lot of the language defensively where we can get our calls in and get lined up quickly. We've gone really fast. For you guys that have been out there, we've been running some tempo that is as fast as you can run it, and we've done a great job of lining up and getting our calls in, and so I think Brian's done a great job with the staff there. So that's really where we spent most of our time. We felt like we didn't get lined up at times, and we felt like if we could communicate well from the back end moving forward, that those young guys got some playing time, that we were going to be pretty good.
Dropped in the info about Kavari. What about Eshak? Is there anything new there?
No, he had just finished getting his information. He had to write an appeal. His part had an appeal that he had to personally put together as well. That has been completed. That has been sent off to the NCAA. So now that goes through the process of them now looking at his appeal.
And then from an offensive standpoint, you talked about Mike Sanford and coaching the quarterbacks and so forth. In the spring, it sounded like you were pretty committed to being the play caller this year and Mike kind of learning more about your offense. Are you still kind of in that mode? And what does Mike bring to the offense from a coordinator standpoint?
Well, you know, first of all, Mike Denbrock sets the table for everything. You know, on a day-to-day basis, Mike Denbrock really, you know, takes the offense and kind of presents it as I, have, set it for him, and then he runs with it. And when I say run with it, he gets it to the position coaches, and so it's important that everybody understands that, you know, at the very beginning, Mike Denbrock is taking the entire offense and presenting it to the assistant coaches, and then they have to execute it. They have to execute what's been given to them. That is the practice organization. That is the installation. That's the preparation work. Now, when we get into game day, that's a whole different animal, and that's where we'll kind of see where we go from there. You know, I think I've got two guys that I'm going to lean on heavily, and Mike Sanford and Mike Denbrock on game day, and I haven't really made a decision as to, you know, how we're going to call the games at this point.
Piggybacking off of the leadership question asked a few moments ago and back to Jalen, today we saw him used as an example quite a few times with the linebackers. How have you seen him step into a leadership role now going into his junior year?
Well, Jalen desperately wants to be called upon at any time to be that guy out front. And we have no problem doing that. I will take him side by side with me anywhere I go. It's great that he holds others accountable, and he's one of our best players. I think for Jalen, more than anything else, I think our players emulate his work ethic. They emulate the way he plays and practices every day. And they know that he's not afraid to tell them, how to do it. So where does his leadership show more than anything else? I think that they're quite they're quite afraid of him getting in their face if he doesn't do it. They don't do it the right way. I think that's where his singular leadership comes out.
Brian, over here in the front. Just to follow up on Eric's play calling question, is it you, Denbrock, or Sanford? Those are the three you need.
I think all of us will sit down and decide. I think right now, we're still deciding who's in the box, who's on the sideline. We really haven't got to that level yet. We'll probably decide that in the next week or so, and then go from there.
And I'm curious, with Sanford and Malik, what's sort of a realistic target for his offseason in terms of cleaning up some techniques, getting him a little bit more consistent mechanically, and then big picture with the quarterback and accuracy? How much can you really improve that in a guy, or is that something that's more inherent?
Oh, no, I think it's all I think all of the things that Malik had coming into the season, into the the spring, in terms of mechanics and things that he needed to work on, were all correctable. He gets a little big, gets the ball stuck behind him a little bit. It's just repetition. I think he's already made some real good progress. Ball placement, touch, things like that were not really part of what he did. He was always throwing the fastball and never really changing speeds at all. These young quarterbacks get rated, by their strength of arm, and they don't get rated by, you should really rate them by, touch passes and ball placement and level 2 balls, and then you really get the sense of the full picture. And those were the things that he needed to work on, and he's made great progress in those touch passes and those ball placement kind of issues, because he was just a rear it up and rip it guy. And now he's come so far from that. I think Mike's made really good progress with him in a very short period of time.
In that aspect of his game, would it be fair to call those strengths yet, or is it more they're not weaknesses?
Look, I think he throws it pretty good for a college football quarterback. He throws it pretty good. He can throw it better. He's a sophomore. He's going to be around here a few more years. I think he can be a top elite thrower of the football because his mechanics are not far off. He's a bit of an overstrider, but he's so strong. He's got such a strong base, and he doesn't have a lot of dropping of the football and big wind-up things that worry you a lot. We just got to cut down on his base a little bit. So he's on track to being better and better each and every week.
Just the last question about your staff. I'm curious about Bob Elliott, Jeff Quinn, what you've specifically wanted them to target, and how you feel like that dynamic has played out through the summer and into camp.
Oh, they've been invaluable, both of them. More oversight, oversight on things that I'm looking for in particular. Coach Elliott is oversight right now is I've got him focused a lot on situations, specific situations that we want. So he's looking at situations, game situations, and then we're putting those in our 11-on-11s and ones that we want to, rep and work out, as well as his oversight is triple option right now. Coach Quinn's oversight right now is, making sure that we develop all of our tight ends, because we're going to be using a lot of tight ends. He's also doing a lot of our self-scout work, doing a lot of number crunching for us. So we know where to go with some of our formations. So we're doing a lot of analytical work for us. And they'll be moved around. So a lot of oversight work in areas where they can oversee coaches, players, situations, and both of them have been invaluable. Their experience is really invaluable.
Ryan, to your left, you mentioned Kavari, and in Russell and Will Fuller, you have two of the better players in the country at their position. I'm just curious what you've gotten out of them going at each other in camp for these 2 weeks.
Well, I think Kavari was rusty coming in, and he was, he really needed to be here, and it's great that he's gotten to work. Todd Light's done a terrific job with all of those guys. I love the way our one-on-ones have gone. It's been the best since I've been coaching, no matter where I've been. Our one-on-ones have been better than anywhere because there's constant teaching and coaching going on. And so Kavari has gotten so much better. There was a little bit too much clutching and grabbing, and I think a lot of that was, when you're out of pads for a year, you can't duplicate by jumping on boxes. It looks good on video, but it's all, you got to play the game. You got to put pads on, and you got to get out there. And he's a different player than he was when he got in here, because he wasn't that good. Now he's back to where, okay, that's Kavari. That's the guy that we remember. And so he still needs that work. So the first couple of weeks, it wasn't much. We were running past him, and he was holding us and grabbing us. Now you can start to see him, his technique's coming back, his discipline's coming back, and it's really nice to see. The battles that were really fun to watch were some of those young guys. Coleman, Crawford, those were fun to watch. Cole Luke is cleaned up, and I would say that Nick Watkins has made great progress. So some of those young guys have made great progress, and I think Kavari's starting to get there right now. So those battles are just starting. Yesterday, we saw the classic Fuller-Russell for the first time yesterday.
Ryan, obviously Notre Dame is known for producing Heisman Trophy winners. Your 5 years here, you had one player vie for it, but you haven't had anyone on offense. Do you think there's a reason why? Is it your offense doesn't maybe lend itself to featuring somebody, or?
Well, we haven't. Who's won the Heisman? It's been quarterbacks, right? Pretty much. So, you need that quarterback that has Heisman-like numbers, and I think that most of the attention's going to be to somebody that has those kinds of numbers across the board, and we'll certainly have the opportunity to have a quarterback here at Notre Dame that can have those numbers, but Everett was having a great year last year, and then we stumbled. I know he was being talked as a candidate, but he wasn't able to finish strong, and we weren't able to finish strong as a team. So you got to play well as a team, right? You got to win. You got to win all of them or nearly all your games. Heck, we won all of our games, and we had a linebacker who was in the hunt for a Heisman. So if you win all your games and you got a really good quarterback, I'm not worried about Notre Dame not having a Heisman Trophy candidate. That's the least of my concerns.
If you have this type of season you hope to have this year, who do you think would be one of this team? Do you think could be a Heisman candidate?
Well, I think we have a lot of candidates. I mean, Will Fuller had 12, 13 touchdowns last year. I mean, there's a dynamic receiver. It's always going to come back to the quarterback. I mean, here's a guy that can throw it and run it. but you got to win. You got to win football games. You got to lead. You got to do it right both on and off the field. So, naturally, it always goes back to the quarterback, but he's, heck, he's a first-time starter. I just hope he keeps the job, right? He's hoping for Heisman. If he answers the question about Heisman, I'll absolutely kill him today. So we'll see how he handles that test today when you hit him up with the Heisman. Hit him hard with the Heisman stuff. Him like to say, hey, let's see how he handles that one, because that'll tell me whether he's going to win the Heisman or not.
Anything else? Are we good?
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks, guys.